Welcome back to the third installment of the Elizabeth Hartman Shop Sample Rainbow Extravaganza. This time, we're gonna be doing the Polychromatic Quilt. And this quilt process has gone through a lot of changes since we did the fabric pull for it, and 95% of it was on me. So, as per usual with Elizabeth Hartman patterns, I assumed that if it was this quilt, it would just be this in different sizes and different layouts, and yes, but we'll get there. So I pulled my fabric, did all 5 colors, figured, okay, well, I've got all 5 colors, I've got the cuts that it says, and then I got to opening the instructions, and the baby quilt looks like this. There are only 3 colors of rainbows there, not 5. So being in quarantine right now, I texted my boss and showed her the pictures, and I was like, this is what I have, this is what I pulled, what should we do? So she kind of gave me 2 options. She was like, well, if you want to do the big one, go for it, or do 2 baby size ones, one in the first 3 colors, so 1, 2, 3, and then one in the bottom 3 colors, 1, 2, 3. And you know, I was like, I'll just have my mom bring me more background fabric, that'll be easiest. So I had her grab the background fabric that I needed, and the other half of everything that I'd cut, because I'd cut fat quarters and fat eighths. So I figured if I double that, it'll be fine, which it will be. I already kind of eyeballed it out and everything. So I'm gonna be doing the lap size, or yeah, large quilt, 73 by 76. So maybe I'll even make a pillow if I've got enough left over. I'll have to check my scraps. Anyways, backtracking. I've got all my colors already pulled. Half of them are already ironed because I was getting ready to go until I realized my mistakes. So here is the unironed portion of all my colors. So I've got the same, I pulled her same colorway from the pattern. It was super easy, so why not make it even harder on myself? So there's all my colors. Here's my background fabric. It's been quite some time since I've done a background that's this dark, but I think basing it off of the cover photo, I think it's gonna look awesome. And then we're gonna get to rainbowing. So I'm gonna go iron the second half of everything out, and then I'm gonna start cutting. I've already got my alphabet stickers all made. Some of them are upside down. So I've got my alphabets all made so that we can get cutting, get organized, and get to work. So I cut out the background of the first 2 colors for each rainbow last night, and then I was tired, so I went to bed, and I realized how long that was taking to film, so I figured it's gonna make a real boring video if all you're doing is watching me cut. So let me show you what I finished up cutting today, so then we can get on to sewing. So here we have all our rainbow pieces, all lettered up, like makes sense to do with Elizabeth Hartman patterns. I thought on my last crystal cluster that I wouldn't have to sticker them, but I was wrong. I definitely needed those stickers. So now we're gonna get to piecing.
So I've now got all my corners, my last little bit for these rainbow blocks all sewn on, my little cornering to make them arched. So I'm gonna go eat some ice cream and then we're gonna get these rainbows all trimmed up and pressed out.
So now we're at the point I've got all my blocks all trimmed up as close to the correct measurement that I could. Some of them are a little off, but I think they'll make it the seam allowance. So now, since my pattern just has them all in rows by color, I don't need to worry about figuring out where to put them on a design wall. So I'm just gonna start from my top row, sew on the sashing, and then go from there. And then we'll be putting the horizontal sashing in, and then it'll be done. So I think this isn't gonna take much longer. I've just got sashing to sew. So far I've been pressing everything open because that's what apparently all this time Elizabeth Hartman has suggested for her pattern. So I gave it a try to see if it makes any sort of difference, and so far I guess they are laying a little flatter. I think that's the purpose of pressing the seams open. But I'm going to press my sashing towards the dark side because when you've got all these little bits of pieces in here of seams, I think it's going to cooperate a little bit better when it's just going towards the one solid piece instead of trying to get all those little bits to press open. So that's the plan. I'm gonna start sewing things together and we'll reconvene at the end. So before I get my sashing in, here is a quick peek at all the rows. It's turning out super cute. As you can see over here, our polychromatic quilt is all complete. So this quilt went together, I'd say quickly, but it did take a while because it was a lot of seam pressing, a lot of one strip at a time, and cornering of each round. So relatively it went together quickly. There's nothing terribly difficult piecing wise to do for it. So as long as you're familiar with sewing a straight line and then sewing on a diagonal, that's pretty much all this quilt is just cornering blocks and straight strip piecing. So I only had to redo one section of one of my blocks. I'll show you. It was this one because it was super crooked. So I think if you lining up your strips off the bottom of your block and not the top, then you won't have this happen. You won't have to rip this whole corner off like I did. Luckily it was one of the half blocks, so it wasn't like I had to rip both sides and the top and a corner and a whole bunch of other things. Just the one go around was what I had to fix. So I think this quilt turned out super cute, and let's take a look at it all by itself.